Hello and welcome everyone to the latest instalment in our Microsoft for Lawyers series. My name is Lisa Crosby. You are here with us today virtually at Barhead Solutions. Really hoping our live streaming runs a little smoother than last week. Apologies to those of you who might have joined us last week. The live streaming powers were just not with us, which is always the risk of doing this stuff without a safety net. I'll introduce my colleagues shortly. Please make sure that you pop comments, questions, thoughts in the chat, whether you're watching this live or on replay. We do see them and we would love to hear from you about what you're getting out of the session and any questions that you have so that we can respond to them. The number one question is always, will this session be recorded? Absolutely. The way this works is that as soon as the session ends, the recording will be available here instantly on our Barhead LinkedIn page. So you can watch it, you can share it with your colleagues. So today we're going to be talking all things contract and document management. Lots of exciting stuff here, understanding how some of the broader pieces of the platform work in terms of model-driven apps, in terms of SharePoint and the difference between that and some of the other tools in the platform and how all those things come together. I will not steal their thunder though, so without further ado, let me introduce my colleagues Roshona and Amanda, who are going to be taking you through this today. Pop your questions in the chat and I'll be moderating on the side. Over to you. Who's the start, Roshona or Amanda?
I could kick off, why not? Hi everyone, my name is Roshona. I'm a Power Platform trainer here at Barhead, and I'll be taking us through the demo for what we have in store today. Amanda.
And hi everyone, my name is Amanda Fadgerman. I'm the engagement manager at Barhead for our contract lifecycle management product, which we've called Consensus. And I've got a real passion for helping lawyers make the most of their Microsoft platform to help them improve their processes and their data. I wear a number of other hats as part of the Women of the Australian Legal Technology Association and a geeky guru for the Centre for Legal Innovation. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're standing on, the Boonwurrung, Woonwurrung and Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, and pay their respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us today. And excuse me, and lastly, I want to acknowledge our fabulous event partners for this event, the Centre for Legal Innovation and the Australasian Society of Computers and the Law. We are thrilled to present this series with them to further our joint mission for innovation in the legal industry. This is session number 6. As Lisa said, if you've missed any sessions so far, you can always watch them on demand at any point, either on YouTube or on the event pages. And you can see here, this is the series that we've worked through. And we want your input. So please, if you've got any questions, include them in the chat. If you've got some ideas or questions that you'd like us to cover in future sessions, please do that too. You might have noticed that we've slightly tweaked the last 2 sessions. We're going to include dynamics, talk about it a little bit more broadly, what it is, how it can be used, and then touch on the last app, which we actually haven't spent any time focusing on, but something which I think some of the teams do use, which is Power BI. So just to do a quick recap, in our first session, we introduced all the applications that we're going to be talking about, a lot of the applications that sit under Microsoft Suite. We then focused on demystifying some of those productivity apps, the to-do, the planner, the tasks, etc. Session 2 then moved into Power Automate, where we discussed how you can automate some of the processes such as approvals and notifications. Session 3, we used forms and Microsoft virtual agents to discuss self-service triage. In session 4, we used AI Builder to demonstrate how you can extract data for processing in the context of a law firm invoice or a contract schedule, which we know that is something that lawyers need to do. They don't want to manually re-enter data when they're reviewing contracts all the time, and they want to be able to approve invoices and have that process automated. And then session 5, we got really interesting. We introduced you to model-driven power apps, which is something which is very close to my heart. We did that in the context of email management and matter management, and showed you how you can use a plugin directly in Outlook so that you can track emails to matter files. So that, here we're really trying to focus on meeting users at the communication layer that they're operating in without asking them to have to switch applications each time. So which leads us to today. Here we're focused on content creation. So what we want to do now is talk about document management, how you can integrate SharePoint in the context of contract lifecycle management. So you can see there that we've got all your content creation apps. We're not going to talk about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. Everyone uses them. Everyone knows them. That little blue squiggly line over there, that's the whiteboard, which you might have seen come up in some of your Teams meetings, which allows you to collaborate, like you have a virtual whiteboard in the room. And then Delve, which I think we touched on in session 1, a really powerful search tool which allows you to find most recently used or referred or modified documents, either that you've been working on or that your colleagues have been working on, when you don't really know what you're searching for in the first place. You just know that they've been working on something. You can see what they're doing. I guess it can also be used as a bit of a spy tool if you want to see if your colleagues are actually doing work, but we won't go there. And then lastly, what we're going to do today is touch on those last two apps, SharePoint, OneDrive, discuss a little bit about the differences between the two, and show you how you can leverage the best of those collaboration tools, the best of those features in the context of Power Apps. So, Rashona, my first question to you is that it can get quite confusing. You get OneDrive and SharePoint up on the screen often when you're trying to save something or search for something. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences between them?
Absolutely. So yes, it can get a bit confusing because sometimes, when you're going to attach something to an email, for example, you might see that you have where you can select your files in OneDrive, but then there's also SharePoint as the option as well. So think about OneDrive as your own personal space. So if you just have maybe some Word docs, Excel files that are just for yourself to use, you can store that in OneDrive. But if you have documents that you're working on a team with, you need that collaboration, then this is where you'll be looking to store things in SharePoint. So think about SharePoint as your place for collaboration with other people. Also, if you're familiar, of course, with Microsoft Teams and you have the files area in the different teams that you have, that is also SharePoint in the back end. And just to sort of demonstrate this a bit more, so let's say if you want to go ahead and send an email, you might notice that when you attach a file, like you have the option to pick either OneDrive or SharePoint. So just keep in mind that if it's OneDrive that you select here, it's just going to be those personal documents that you have stored for yourself to use over in OneDrive. Whereas if you have a document that is in SharePoint, which means that it's things that other people will have access to, then you would pick one of these other options here. We can navigate through your different sites to pick the file that you want to share. Amanda, hopefully that explains the difference a bit better.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. And often, Rashona, while you've got that screen up there, you'll get that little pop-up to say, you're sharing outside your organization. Do you want to attach it as a copy or as a link? So you'll notice there, that's sort of an intuitive indication of whether or not you are actually sharing something, as a physical document outside the organization, in which case you do need to send it as a physical link, or if you're discussing and collaborating on a document, you want to send it as a link to save some of that email traffic and unnecessary data that gets transferred in emails. So now let's talk a bit more about Power Apps. Now, I think last week, Rashona, you introduced us to the concept of a model-driven app. Now, it does form the backbone of Consensus, which, as I said before, is our contract lifecycle management solution. Could you do a little bit more of a deep dive into how lawyers might use it, or what the relevance is in terms of managing a database? So in the context of managing clients and the parties' names and the organisations that they're from, that's a key requirement for lawyers to be able to manage who they are doing the work for. Over to you.
Of course. All right, so let me head over into Power Apps here. So Power Apps is where you can build your own no-code business application. So essentially what Amanda said is that for whatever your purpose is, information or data that you need to store, you can really build that over here in Power Apps. So you create your database, which is where you would store the information, like maybe if it's particular organizations or accounts that you work with, or contacts or people that you engage with. You can store that all over here in Microsoft Dataverse. And then we build an app on top of that for a way for your users and your colleagues to then interact with that data and do whatever that you need to track here. So over at make.powerapps.com, this is where you can go and build your app. And first, I'm just going to bring up, before I get into Dataverse here, let me go ahead into my apps area. And I've just gone ahead and built out a very simple app that I've called Account Management, which only actually took me about a couple minutes or so to build. So this one here, what we can see is just a place where I can go and access all the different accounts or organizations I might be working with, as well as my contacts. So this is the app that I've been able to spin up quite quickly. So what we can see here down the side is, I might zoom in a bit to make it a bit easier for you to see. So let's say if I check out my accounts here, I can now see all of the organizations that I have. I can also see particular information about them, such as the name, phone number, address, contact, email address. And then clicking into it is where I can get some further information about it. So I might also have info such as their phone number, their address details. I have this timeline so I can even track things like activities, emails that have gone out between myself and this organization. Similar as well, I've also have another area here, which is all of my contacts that I have. So these could be people within your organization, outside of your organization that you're engaging with. And it's where you can store and track all the engagements you've had with them and any information that you want to store about them. And similar stuff, we can store different information. We can have this timeline of activities so we can see all this. This is all fully configurable. So like I said, this is a very basic one that I've built just showing me all my accounts and contacts. But in the session today, we're going to be getting into Consensus, which is the app that we've built, which you can manage a lot more things in, such as the different contracts that you have with all these different accounts and organizations. So this app is one that I've built, but the data that you see here is actually all stored back here in Microsoft Dataverse, which we can access over here in make.powerapps.com. And I'll open up my account table because that's the one we've used in our app. And you can see this is where we have all of that data being stored. So I can add more data from here directly. I could even, of course, add it directly from using my app. So the idea of this app that we've built is that it's a way to surface this data that we have stored and then, work with whatever processes that we might need. Okay, Amanda, that was my intro into the model-driven apps. Anything else that you think we might need to touch on about that before we move on?
No, I think that's excellent, and as you said, in the context of what lawyers do day to day, that really is, okay, I want to know who the other party is. I want to know if we've done any other work for them, if there's any conflicts because we've acted for, another party in the context of a dispute, for instance. So being able to go to that level of saying, who is the party, what is their name, and what are the matters that I've done with them, or what matters have we acted against them on, is a really critical part of, the work that lawyers do day to day. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and I might just hand over to Lisa.
Yeah, so Roshona's taken us through there the concept of model-driven apps, which is a really lovely basic example of how those pieces come together in a nice simple app that she's built in, what did you say, very short amount of time there. What we're going to show you here is kind of where that can go, because the concept of a model-driven app can be used for something very basic like that, but you can also kind of completely flesh it out and end up with something like this. So this is an example of something that can be done with it and something that we've put together specifically to enable contract lifecycle and matter management using Power Apps. And do stick with us till the end, because there is actually a special offer for people who are watching this today that you might like to take advantage of. So Amanda, you want to take us through this next part?
Thanks, Lisa. So yeah, as Lisa said, we've got a fully fledged and fully built out contract lifecycle and matter management application. It's built on the Microsoft cloud. It's an example of what you can do with a Power App. specifically targeted to legal, procurement and contracting teams. But the workflows and the use cases are equally as applicable across other industries like HR, risk and compliance, company secretary, etc. Because at the end of the day, like that database that Roshona showed you, it is managing a record of information or a database. So we've created a central source of truth for a matter or a contract record, so you can easily locate, track and manage your contracts or matters and ensure that the right people have access to the right data at the right time. It also allows users to create and save information so that they can easily, create that content, but at the same time, they can easily surface that content, search and find that content when they need it in a secure Microsoft environment or in the organization's Microsoft environment, which ties into all the apps that they love and use day to day, like Outlook, SharePoint, and Teams. So we've also added a whole lot of automated workflows over the top to help you save time, such as reminder notifications and approvals on things like due dates. So you can fully manage that end-to-end life cycle and fully manage that whole process from beginning to end. So what we'll do now is go into what that looks like from the back end. So you can see there that Roshona's about to pull up a screen of Consensus. SharePoint acts as the underlying document repository within the Power application. So you quickly and easily collaborate on documents without having to download, save as, create a new document each and every time. You can see there that there's a contract record that she's opened up. It's got a process bar along the top so that you can, jumped ahead too quickly there. All right, I'll go with you. There's the contract document itself. So Roshona, you've gone straight into a contract document, which has basically surfaced the SharePoint document and showed it in preview form. Can you show us a little bit more about how SharePoint is operating in this scenario?
All right, so over here we have our contract document that we've opened up in Consensus, like Amanda has said. So over here, directly from the tab, we can go and we can access the contract document. So this is all stored in SharePoint, but over here, what we can do is manage all the versions as well of it. So directly from the record, we can open it up, but then we can also see this full-on history about this particular contract and the changes that it's gone through as well. So this is probably relatable to everyone. So, you might have multiple documents for a contract. You might have one called a draft. You might have a few that have the word final and then another one called final after it. Whereas with this one, it's all centrally managed here. So we have the single contract document, but then if we do need to revert back to another version of it, we can simply just go and we can see the history of it down here. We can also make any notes as well. So maybe if we made a change to it, we want to go and add a note on the change that happened, we can go and do that. So now we can clearly see what the latest version is, what the changes were from the previous version as well, rather than having all these different links or these different documents that we need to go and search through. The other thing here is that we can also upload a new version of it too. So perhaps if someone did send you an email, like one of the other parties emailed a new version of the contract, you can simply just go and upload it here, and then you'll have another version stored of it. Making changes to this as well is really simple, and it can be done directly from this interface here too. So if I'm taking a look at this contract and I decide, I want to make some adjustments to it, I can simply just go ahead and hit the edit button. And this will take you directly to Word Online, where you can make whatever changes that you want. Or if you prefer, you can also go ahead and open it up in the desktop app if you prefer to edit things there. And then once again, any changes will be stored here as another version, which you can go back and make and go and view if you need to. Okay, Amanda, I think that's an overview of the contract documents tab that we have here.
Thanks, Roshona. And, look, one of the beauties of that is, as you said, you've got that final version of the contract coming out being surfaced. When you do send it off for execution, then the executed copy then is replaced with the, in that preview format, but you've got that record of the history of the document that's gone through over time. So you can always go back and do that compare, between versions to get that redlining feature or the track changes that we know that lawyers often love to do to give them that peace of mind that there haven't been any changes that have passed and, that they've missed. So we've really tried to incorporate all those needs and user requirements in as part of the application. And the app actually prompts you to say, hey, we've noticed that there are some changes here between the last version and the new version. Do you want to make a note or add a description what they are? So that also acts as a good backstop in case you've missed a change in a next version. So now that you've seen the preview of the actual contract document itself, there's a lot more that you can do. You can actually, if you move over, Rashona, to the Contracts tab, this is really surfacing SharePoint. It's a mirror of SharePoint. It's showing all the access and permissions that you've got set up by your organization in SharePoint is respected in this app. So you've got a view of everything that's happening in SharePoint directly from the application. Rashona, over to you.
So the great thing about this is that you're using SharePoint, but it is just embedded directly in the app here. So it's not like you need to go navigate to a completely different website to see all the related documents that you need about it. But if you did want, you can also just click the button to open it over into SharePoint. So it will simply just open it up in the SharePoint view. But like you can see, it's the same thing that we have here embedded in the app. So if I want to open up any documents from here, I can launch it directly from the app. And I can even upload things from here too. So simply, if I have something I want to add to this, I can just drag and drop it. And then it's uploaded into SharePoint for us. And great thing about this is that, of course, it's embedded here. And it's showing us all the relevant documents that we need. All right, Amanda. Anything else to add about that one there?
No, look, I think, you see a very familiar grid interface there. And as Rashona said, it's going to allow you to drag and drop documents in. You can sync it to your Windows Explorer. You can share documents. You can, create custom columns there like you see in SharePoint. So all the features and functionality, all the best of SharePoint is being able to be surfaced directly within the application there, so that you can really quickly and easily surface that information, surface the documents that you need without having to use SharePoint as sort of like the entry point to click through where are all the documents related to this matter or the contract being saved. Okay, now let's perhaps go to a slightly different angle. Often we want to create a contract. You want to actually open up a new contract, start to create some new data. So how could you do that, Rashona?
All right, so let's go ahead and create a new contract. So simply just over in Consensus, we have down here all of the contracts, like you can see, that we currently have in our system. And we can go ahead and create a new one from here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out some info. And what you're going to see is that it's going to automatically generate this contract for us. So we don't need to manually go and build this one from scratch. So what I'm going to do here, let me go ahead and I'll add in some info. So we'll fill in some fields here. So I'll put in our contract name, software license with Evans Consulting. The next one that we have here is this contract type. So these are things that you can configure. So the different types of contracts you might have, you can set up these templates, and it's actually going to change the type of information that you can select that you want to be populated on your contract. So let's go ahead and select one here. I'll go with my software license agreement. Another thing is that all of the fields that you see here, can all be configurable. So depending on the info that you want to capture, you could have that displayed here. Let's pick a few more things here. So we'll pick contract category, let's say customer. Let's pick a source as well. Pick a term. And over here we have our templates. So these are templates that you can set up as well. So you could have a range of different templates, but this is the one that we're going to use in particular for this contract that we want to create. Let's go ahead, fill in some more info. Let's say contract amount, $90. Pick an entity, which is coming from the different organizations that we have in our system. And let's fill in some more info on this side. So let's say the other party is Evans Consulting. And pick an individual from there. Now, over here, I have some more info that I can fill in on for my contract as well. So once again, this is information that you can configure. Let's just simply go ahead and add in a term. Where's the term? Here we go, 1 year. Yeah. It's on the screen there. All right, so now what we're going to do, let's go ahead and save this. And in a moment, we're going to see something cool happen. So while that's saving, it will take a few seconds, but we're going to see a contract be generated based on the info that we have added to it. Anything you want to add, Amanda, while we wait for this to get ready?
So you've noticed that there's a whole lot of tabs. Overview is one tab, details is another tab, and we don't have a contract document tab right now, but that is what is going to populate as soon as that contract is generated. But you've got a whole lot of other tabs. Last week we spoke about emails and how you can track emails to and from a contract or a matter record. And there's a number of other, as I said, automated workflows that we've built into the back end, such as tasks, breaking down a contract into a number of steps. If there's any review processes that you need in order to get that contract approved, ready for execution. So there's a whole lot of things that happen pre-contract execution that you want to track and manage and have that audit history for. And there's a whole lot of things that happen post-contract execution, like they may be reminders on due dates, a contract event like a default that needs actioning or rectifying, risks that you need to manage during a contract and have that report to say, here's all our contracts that are currently on foot and the risks. And you can also see there a timeline of all the activity that's happened on that matter. So that'll include things like as that contract gets generated, reviewed, approved, signed, all that timeline is automatically populated so that you've got at your fingertips a history of all the activities that have happened on the matter or on the contract as time has progressed. So I think almost it should be ready now. I know there's always a little bit of a lag.
It usually only takes
a
few seconds, I think. Just refresh. And now you'll notice we have our contract document tab here. And there we go. So you can see it's taken that information that I entered in the overview tab and in the details. So it's taken Barhead Solutions, Evans Consulting, the fee that I put in, the term info. It's gone ahead and it's populated this contract template for us. So we have it now ready to go.
Thanks, Rashona. And obviously that is also a key requirement of many legal teams because it's, making sure that if you are using some form of self-service, that your team is using the right template to create that document rather than, what was just the random last thing that we did, or what was that last contract that I used. So again, being able to manage your templates, being able to manage, that process of automating those contracts. You can see here we've really used the best of both worlds in terms of the collaboration tools, the functionality of SharePoint and Word online with a database, with Power Apps to surface all that information all in one place. So that pretty much covers the end of what we wanted to cover today. I'll quickly run through next week. Next week we're going to talk about Dynamics, how legal services providers can use Dynamics to help them nurture their clients, get new clients. And then, as I said, session 8 will cover Power BI and the insights you can get from reporting. Now, I think, Lisa, you alluded to the fact that we do have a special offer, again, available for users who are joining us today. That is, we're offering 1 month free we are really excited to have worked through this Microsoft for Lawyers series with you over the last few months, and we really want to leverage that community that we've created. We do want to run focus groups in Sydney and Melbourne to try and help enable legal teams use Microsoft technology, and we really want your feedback. So if you are interested, please get in touch. We'd love to give you the opportunity of this special offer and work with you to enable you to do this.
Thanks so much, Amanda, Rashona. Another awesome session. We've done 6 of these now, and we are just, there's no shortage of content and wonderful technology in the platform here, and how it can help lawyers. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll pop the link in the chat here if you want to pick that up and find out more about that. Also reach out to us here at Barhead Solutions. The session will be available within a few minutes of the session finishing here if you want to watch it again or share it with your colleagues. And don't forget to join us next time round, which is 2 weeks from now, to learn more about CRM and how that can help you in your organisation. Thanks again for joining us.